How's it going?
Kansas City.
Uh, Wondering how you're doing today. We're talking about your football team today, and I feel like you're probably pretty excited with where you have already been and where your team's going. I mean, you guys are headed in a great direction. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are the most copied NFL team out of all of them. I mean, if the Chiefs have some sort of creative play dialed up, that play immediately goes in like 15 other NFL teams' playbooks right away. It was obvious with that little tight end forward pitch play that they had going on there for a while that you saw every other team run after that game. Uh, it's just really funny. I don't think I've ever seen a team copied as much as the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with the fact that you got your Andy Reid coaching tree, which literally extends into every team's building, seemingly in some point or some manner. It's just impossible to get completely away from him in this league we have nowadays. With that being said, would you like to lead us into the season? Uh, just looking back at last season for them.
Yeah, for the Chiefs, I think the first thing you notice just when you go back and think about their 2020 season is they had a ton of close games. I mean, there were very few blowouts, which is just something you don't expect from a team like the Chiefs. You'd think they'd be blowing almost every team that they play out. I mean, that week one game, it's the Texans. I think that's the closest that they got to a blowout in the regular season. Almost every game was close for them. Uh, and it just seemed like at the right time, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes would like turn it on and get it to click. Sometime in the late third, early fourth, they'd get it going, and then they'd pull out the win there. And of course, that had everyone questioning, "Oh, that's not sustainable. they're not gonna do it again. They're not gonna go to the Super Bowl," and they did because they're the Chiefs, and that's what the Chiefs do. I mean, if you look back at the playoffs, 2 seasons ago, that's what they did. Just turned it on late, and I don't have a problem with that. It's what people have to expect now from the Chiefs because I'm sick and tired of everyone questioning it. Where it's like this is what they do. They don't really play great for the first quarter and a half, and then they turn it on there after halftime. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a great season before it was kind of ended by injuries. He really impressed me with what he did. I mean, first round running back, you'd hope he produce well immediately, but played 13 games, almost had 1,000 yards, so that's great production from him. Not great production from Le'Veon Bell though, who the Chiefs convinced to sign there to just not use him at all. So I feel bad for Lev Bell, but Kansas City just loves stockpiling talent, whether they use it or not. Their wide receiving core, I don't think this is a very controversial thing to say. It's very one-dimensional. Everyone in that wide receiver room does one thing, and it's run fast. And that's what Andy Reid likes. And you see it with guys like uh, Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle. Guys, it's like you can't really catch, but boy, you can run fast.
If anyone says that that's controversial, I have no idea what they've been looking at for the past 3 years.
Yeah, I just you look at it, it's like wow, they got Tyreek Hill and they've really hit on that, and now they're just trying to like repeat it almost every draft to just take the fastest guy and hope he turns into something fantastic. And since Tyreek Hill haven't really hit greatly on that. But it works for them. It's their scheme. I'm not going to complain with it. I mean, it's getting them to Super Bowls, so who am I to say that they need to bring in some 6 foot plus giant to catch fade balls? The Honey Badger is consistently a top safety in the league, year in and year out, and it's great to see him thrive in Kansas City. That playoff game against the Browns, I think, some funniest moments of his time with the Chiefs during that. Just it was great to watch. Go back and watch that game and see him all over the place, and also just see him get blown up a couple plays and then just bounce right back up because that's what he does. Uh, Chris Jones does not get talked about enough, and he's a game wrecker for them and disruptor. Gets a lot of sacks too. It just seems like over that defense when they're talking about like obviously the offense is the big thing for the Chiefs, but when it comes to defense, it's like oh yeah, they got Tyrann Mathieu and They got Chris Jones too. It just seems like he gets thrown in there. He's not like the focal point of that defense that people talk about. He is the focal point of that defense. I just feel like he gets overlooked by the media, not by other teams. Obviously, teams game plan around him a lot because you have to. Uh, L'Jarius Sneed had a great season. He's really young, and to see him just burst onto the scene late in the season like he did, I mean, he only played a handful of games. It's not like he was. I don't even think he played double-digit games in the regular season, but he was great with what he did. Harrison Bucker just going back. I mean, and this was confirmed when I looked at the stats too, but looking at his season, just going through and looking at the games, he had a down year. It's really surprising for a butt kicker to not be one of the top kickers in the league, field goal percentage wise, or even extra point percentage wise. I was shocked seeing that. The return game is dynamic, and I mean it has to be because, like I said, almost every wide receiver they take in the draft is just all right. Who's the fastest guy on the board here? So you could put anyone in that wide receiver room back there to return, and it'll be all right. And Travis Kelsey or Kels or however you pronounce his last name now that clip got released to him saying it properly. He's such a large piece for that offense, and I don't want to say he gets overlooked because he doesn't, but geez, I don't feel like the guy gets talked about enough, and it's so weird to say. It is so weird to say that for like all pro Hall of Fame tight end, because he makes up like a majority of Patrick Mahomes' yards, and you saw that he was the number 2 receiver in yards last season as a tight end. So he brings every other feature of that one-dimensional wide receiver room just in him. So I think he picks up the slack for every other receiver not named Tyreek Hill. And that's all I got. Throwing it to you now.
Okay. I love that Clyde Edwards-Helaire just had like his best game week 1. Also, even though you told me that Edwards-Helaire is the incorrect pronunciation, I don't know why there's an H in there if there's no H that exists. So I'm going to keep saying it just to screw with you and whoever else that would bother. Also, Texans-Chiefs week 1 last year is kind of like got the same potential of the week 1 game this year of just like, oh, okay, we've got Bucks-Cowboys, so we've got one actually competent team and then one team that could potentially just be a dumpster fire by the end of the season. Not saying the Cowboys are as likely as the Texans were to be last year. Really, I don't feel like they're going to be. I feel like they're at least going to be competent. But if there's a team that could end up in the trash can by the end of the year, it's definitely the Dallas Cowboys. You know how that always goes. You're absolutely correct. L'Jarius Sneed did have a tremendous year. Whenever I was catching Chiefs games, I was always impressed by him on the field. If you didn't know, the Mahomes guy is probably the best football player in the NFL, and
Oh, really?
I don't think there's anybody that I want to put in front of him. I don't really think there's anyone that close.
JOK.
Yeah. Maybe if we can get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, we can get a little film of him. Maybe he'll pop off, but I don't know. He's also at a slightly less important position. Play design for this team is obviously still amazing, and the speed just makes it so that you can basically draw up whatever the heck you want, and it'll make it so that it'll work. Gotta love watching the Honey Badger play, no doubt about it. Tyrann Mathieu also really fun on that defense, and in general, with him and Sneed, I just like their entire secondary. Then you got like guys like Dan Sorensen too, who's just like kind of a
Dirty Dan.
kind of a meme for this show now. For whatever reason, it's just amusing. They got a fun secondary. Linebackers, not really too many guys, and then obviously the guy you look at mainly on the D line, as you said, is Chris Jones. But this team is always fun to watch. They make games fun to watch. The only thing that could make games less interesting to watch about this team is if they do end up dominating games. But you're right, last season they didn't end up dominating too many games in terms of the final score, unless they really pulled away right at the end. They didn't have any where they just straight up killed guys the entire time, but they're still winning a heck of a lot of games, and I'd expect that to continue this season. I also absolutely love that they decided that the game they were going to pull out the fake punt was against the 0-7 Jets because they felt really threatened by the 0-7 Jets, apparently. Also, Kelsey is a good player, but I definitely think having Mahomes makes him look as he does, which is fantastic. He's a good player. I think Mahomes elevates him though, and I swear no one in the league comes close to Tyreek's speed. It's just on another level. There's no one else that can do it, and I just feel like everybody knows this team so well. So that's all I had for my notes.
Yeah, it's really hard to have a lot of talking points about it because everyone knows the Chiefs. What do you got for stats?
Mahomes, 4,700 yards. I really didn't realize that he had that many passing yards, and that was only in 15 games. He also had 38 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 803 yards on the ground, but more importantly, averaged about 4.4 yards per carry, which is right about where I want to be at to say that you're a solid running back. Kelsey got to 105 catches for 1,416 yards and 11 touchdowns, while Tyreek Hill had 1,276 yards and 15 touchdowns. It's really impressive to have two guys catch 10-plus touchdowns. That's kind of a wild stat that I don't think a lot of people would realize how rare that is. 10 touchdowns for multiple players catching the ball is wild. Mecole Hardman also had 560 yards, and then Pringle and Hardman were also both really solid in the return game. I thought they did well, and I don't know. I'm just comparing it to how everybody else in the league is doing in terms of league average, but I didn't think Butker was bad this year. I thought he was good, but I mean, I guess if you're comparing
For Butker standards, he was.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think like top tier kicker, if you're below like 90%, that's kind of not where you want to be. But league average wise, yeah, he was on the higher end of league average.
Yeah. Tommy Townsend was also pretty good. Then in terms of interceptions, Tyrann Mathieu led the team with 6. 9 passes defended for Tyrann Mathieu, and Brashad Breeland led the team. Then 2 forced fumbles for Dan the Man Sorensen and Chris Jones. 7.5 sacks for Chris Jones led the team. 91 tackles for Dan the Man Sorensen led the team. And then 8 tackles for loss for Frank Clark was the top tackles for loss mark on the team.
Yeah, I don't really have anything much for cleanup. You got it all for me, so let's make our way towards their gains and losses here. In free agency, they had a decent amount of pickups, which is just great. Great when the rich get richer. So for what I got, they get Jerick McKinnon, who, fingers crossed, he doesn't get injured this training camp. I really want to see him play. I really do. It's been like 4 years since I've seen him grace the football field, so it'd be nice to see him. That's Good Sports MVP here in Will Parks, who I only know because Brandon Perna talks about him all the time, so hopefully that's a good pickup for their secondary. Get Joe Tooney from the Patriots. Get another stud fullback after theirs retires in Michael Burton. They pick up Jaron Reed from the Seahawks, and they get Austin Bly from the Rams.
You got everything I had, and then I just got the 2 guys that they traded for as well, in Orlando Brown and Mike Hughes. Mike Hughes is an interesting one just because I don't even remember him coming out, but if memory serves me correctly, he was a first-round corner for Minnesota, and just having that level of talent, kind of getting him on a low deal is pretty interesting with what they've got going on at the cornerback position, and just maybe he could actually play significant snaps for them. It's really interesting to see them go that way.
Yeah, I remember looking at the news when that trade went through. I was like, oh, the Chiefs got Mike Hughes. Great, rolling my eyes because, rich get richer and everything. And I'm like, what did they give up for him? Like, 3rd or 4th or something? I'm like, oh, no, they just swapped 6th and 7th with the Vikings and got him out of it, too. So that's great. But, yeah, he might have not panned out with the Vikings, but getting some talent in there like that, seeing what he could do in that secondary, which is already solid, yeah, it's a good pickup for them. But speaking of losses now here, they took a big loss in the running back room because they lost the playmaker.
They did lose the playmaker. Damian Williams is gone. Now they only have his twin brother, Darrell Williams, who literally is the same height and same weight and also named D. Williams. But You know, that's not really important. We have to realize that Damian Williams is the only player that I've ever called the playmaker. Not Michael Irvin. It's Damian Williams. If you,
I don't even know who Michael Irvin
yeah,
is. All I know
yeah.
is Damian
If
Williams.
you didn't
Uh,
know, but yeah, he's fun. But I mean, he's probably not the only guy that's worth mentioning in this
no,
losses
no, he definitely
section.
isn't. Other losses are Le'Veon Bell, Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz, Sammy Watkins, Brashad Breeland, and Ricky Seals-Jones are who I have. If you got anyone else,
Kelechi Osemele, Bashad Breeland, Tano Kapasangnan. Love that name. Still love that name. He was doing. I remember him doing a little bit of work in the playoffs, and that's why I mentioned him in this and in the team video, wherever he ended up. I can't remember at this time,
Saints.
but yeah, I feel like he was kind of interesting. Then just in terms of like what they added and what they lost, I mean, it feels like they lost a lot of middle of the road guys that really aren't gonna like crazily affect their team. While they managed to add Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, who I'd say those are two players where like you're actually saying like you upgraded from what you had last season. And then like the other guys are good swap in guys like Jerick McKinnon. You know you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If Jerick McKinnon can play, he's fine to replace Damian Williams. Jerron Reed is pretty solid on the defensive line. Michael Burton will be able to do something, I guess. I don't really want to say exactly what he'll be for them, but and then Mike Hughes, like I already said, I really just like the boom potential of getting Mike Hughes. There's really not much downside with what they traded to get him.
Yeah, and another game that they had that I forgot is Kyle Long. He didn't come up on the list that I looked up because he came out of retirement and over the cap doesn't track that, but yeah, they really revamped that O-line.
I mean, it basically, I mean, it feels like the entire thing is like it. I mean, that's 3 out of 5 positions that you're gonna say improved this offseason. That's really good, as long as Kyle Long isn't coming out and like completely out of shape, and I wouldn't expect him to if he's coming back to football. I'd expect him to be in good shape, and it is interesting just to see that they were basically able to replace the mediocre guys that they lost, because they only lost mediocre guys, and then additions they made were actually like solid improvements still, and they were the second best team in the league last year, which is just wonderful.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Moving to their draft now. I like the first couple picks here in the draft. After that, kind of indifferent on them, but had a pretty solid draft for the picks that they had. Their first pick, which is in the second round because they gave up their first round pick for Orlando Brown, they get my guy Thick Bolton out of Mizzou. Yes, I really love Nick Bolton. He, like I said, he's thick. Dude is stocky. He's a tackling machine. He can really do it all. He can rush the passer, plug up the run, and he's even decent in coverage too. The one real knock I have against him is if he is if they're in man and he has to cover some kind of dynamic running back, like just think of an NFL like a Kamara or Christian McCaffrey, he's not going to be able to do it. Which I know that's like the very high end of it, but just seeing like the higher end guys that are solid route runners out of the backfield, he did not do a solid job of sticking with them. Tight ends, though, he could keep up with almost any tight end from what I saw in the film.
Are you really like even expecting somebody like Devin White to be able to, even hold back those type of players?
No, I expect Devin White to, stick with him a little bit more. Nick Bolton, he's thicker. He really struggled. That's just what I saw.
I don't even think he's that thick. I mean, he maybe has to have a little bit of weight on him, but the only thing that's a knock on him that probably keeps him from going higher, because honestly, he does look good at just about anything. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he was like the SEC linebacker of the year. I can't remember.
Yep, led the SEC in tackles, and I think tackles for loss too.
Which is just tremendous. The only knock on him is his height, which is just amazing. No, like they're seriously getting such a good player here in the second round. And if the comparison for another second round linebacker wasn't Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, this would be considered like an A+ pick. But considering JOK went just a few picks earlier, that means that you have to slightly knock it down to like an A or A- pick. But I really like it too.
Yeah, yeah. And then their second round pick in Creed Humphrey, who I thought he was gonna go in the first. I had him as my number 2 center behind Quinn Miners, who went to the Broncos. He's really quick off the snap. He's great at pulling. Quick feet. Never gets pushed around in pass pro either. I mean, I don't really have that many notes on an offensive lineman, but from what I watched, that's what I got.
Yeah, no, and you're the expert offensive line analyst here at the Illegal Use of Hands to the Face YouTube channel. So, I'll leave that up to you. I know he was high ranked, and I'm sure they probably made the right decision here because now that means that they have a second round lineman. I mean, second round linemen are usually considered starters in the NFL, which means now we've got 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen replaced on that line that was the biggest problem in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, talking about them being able to address positions in need, I think they killed it with these first 2 picks because one of the other positions, I didn't say this before, but one of the other positions I would have pointed to besides offensive line that I would have said I think they need to get a bit stronger at is linebacker, and they do that. They do those 2 positions in the first 2 picks, so I like it.
Yeah, in the 4th round, they pick up a guy who went to your soon-to-be alma mater here, in Josh Kando, edge rusher. He's pretty athletic. All that I really have to say is he's natural with the ball. He gets the ball in his hands. He's a natural with it. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw him either get a pick or recover a fumble, but great highlight guy. I gotta knock him though because he was always like the second or third guy to get to where the play was. Takes a lot. Yeah, it took a long time to get to the QB. Only really had one move. Yeah. Gets his hands up and bats balls down.
Nah, I don't agree with that. He wasn't because we watch other guys that are consistently taking 12 seconds to get to the quarterback, and it's like, oh, but he was the first one there. There may have been like some plays where he was maybe the second or third guy to get there, but at the same time he was, even on those plays, he was only taking like 2 to 3 or 4 seconds to get to the quarterback. It wasn't like some of these guys who's like, well, he was the first one in comparing these defensive linemen that are all on his team to get to the quarterback. He still got to the quarterback fairly quickly, and there were a lot of times where he did get to the quarterback first. And he's just an athletic playmaker. You want to talk about a guy that feels kind of like Jadeveon Clowney, just in terms of like, I'm guessing he won't do much most of the time, but like that one game where he could take over, it feels like he's kind of like a boomer bust type of guy here. And it may be what the Chiefs need on the D-line, considering the fact that Chris Jones led the team in sacks, and that's an interior defensive lineman. I don't love to see that, and Frank Clark obviously hasn't turned out for what they want him to be. So maybe just getting a guy that can come off the edge and just wreak havoc once in a while will be enough to boost them up. Like, imagine if he goes off in like the Super Bowl or something. It'd be huge. Just doesn't do anything for divisional round weekend or championship weekend, or even heck like week 14 to 18. But just then the Super Bowl comes and he's like, oh, this. I'm gonna play well this week.
So he's the Javonte Williams of edge rushers then. He's gonna have that one game.
No, because I'm not even sure that Javonte Williams is going to have, like, one game of, like, 150 yards rushing in his career.
Wow. Okay. And their fifth round pick up a tight end who, I compared him to Tyler Kroft at pre-draft. Routine play kind of guy. Not going to drop a lot of balls, but he is tight end 2 material. That is what he is, and the Chiefs really have lacked that. I mean, they also picked up Blake Bell this offseason, but they let go of Ricky Seals-Jones, who I think they were expecting to turn into their tight end too, and he didn't. So they're just taking shots on guys here now, Blake Bell, and now Noah Gray. Just a guy with soft hands who's going to make the routine play. Don't really need a Travis Kelce clone there to be his backup. Just a nice little safety blanket.
Yeah, I don't really care for this pick. I don't think it does much to help their team, honestly. Even though they're a really solid roster, honestly, I probably would have considered like taking. I don't know. There's still a decent number of positions.
Just taking linebackers with these last 3 picks.
Honestly, yeah, a linebacker, another edge guy. I mean, a receiver even, because I don't think the receivers are that crazy. Not a tight end. Not a tight end, because he's a tight end.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That wouldn't make any sense.
I hate this pick. I wish they would have taken a tight end.
I meant another O-lineman, honestly. And that's probably the other places I would have looked, but obviously not looking at the draft board, seeing who was available. But I do like Cornell Powell.
Yes, their second, 5th round pick, Cornell Powell. A bigger body guy. Only 6 foot tall though. When you watch his film, he looks bigger than that. Kind of outside of the Andy Reid mold that I was making fun of at the start of this, of just guys that are pure straight line speed. He can do a little bit of it all.
Yeah, from this small sample, like I enjoyed his tape more than Amari Rodgers because he feels more dynamic in terms of just being able to do like everything. I don't feel like I would feel like Amari Rodgers feels like I need to call plays with him in mind specifically. Cornell Powell feels like I literally could call any play, and no matter what his assignment on the play would be, I would feel confident in his ability to go out and execute it. That's nice, but it's also interesting because, like you said, it's kind of getting away from the rest of the guys on the team, where I feel like the only guy on the offense now that's a wide receiver that I would say I feel that way about is kind of Tyreek Hill, but even then, if like Tyreek Hill was blocking for somebody out in front, I wouldn't feel too confident about that. So I can't even say, like, Cornell Powell is immediately the only guy in the receiver room for me on this team that I actually trust to literally be able to do anything that a receiver may need to do. Also, I'm just because I haven't said it before on here, because I haven't really had a reason to, Demarcus Robinson is like one of the most frustrating players for me to have to watch in the entire league. I just get, I can't believe that he stays employed half the time, honestly, or at least is like he's a decent player, but I can't believe he stays on the field because he's not good. He drops way too many passes like that should be caught for me to understand why he still gets so many snaps. But yeah. Sorry for that rant. Just wanted to throw that in there because I didn't get to mention it at any time before this.
Yeah, and just wrapping up on Cornell Powell real quick. Going back through and looking at his games, his best games were without Trevor Lawrence. It was with DJ Uungale. Yeah, it was with him. So you know he could do it with anyone back there. Anyone back there, he could do it. It's because it's not just like Clemson dominates whoever they play against.
Yeah, I mean, we're really worried about this quarterback situation for this team, so I mean, this is a big concern.
I think Chad Henne can make it work with Cornell Powell.
No, there's a better quarterback on roster, not named Patrick Mahomes. I got it. Don't worry. Tell me about the 7th rounder, or the last pick.
It was 6th round.
Yeah,
6th
I
rounder.
know. I knew you were gonna say that because he's the last pick, but he's not a 7th rounder. What are these teams doing, just giving up 7th round picks? Well, I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that, because if Mike Hughes is what you're getting for your 7th round pick, then yeah, you should trade your 7th round pick.
Yeah, they get Trey Smith. He's an offensive lineman, solid offensive lineman depth. Don't really have much to say about him because I feel like I'm just wasting breath breaking down a 6th round offensive lineman.
You are. Okay, now, more importantly, their undrafted free agent. One of 8 undrafted free agents they signed. This is a huge deal. This is one of my favorite quarterbacks from this draft class, Shane Buechele at SMU. He's on the roster. So this means that now for 2 years in a row, the Chiefs have had a 3rd-string quarterback that I really just have a liking for that doesn't make any sense at all. So hopefully I can catch some preseason football for the Kansas City Chiefs, and hopefully he's not the 4th stringer. Hopefully he's the 3rd stringer, because I have to admit, Chiefs fans, I didn't go deep enough into the roster to check if you had like a fourth quarterback in roster. The only
No,
guys I know of are Henny, Mahomes, and him. So if you have another guy in front of him, it's going to be very disappointing for me because I want to see Buechele in the preseason.
Ole Miss played with A.J. Brown and D.K. Metcalf. Played for the Battlehawks in the XFL.
Yeah,
Teamu. Yeah,
I don't know if he's still on the roster.
Yeah, I think he is.
I hope he is. That would actually be okay because he was the other guy I was talking about when I say that they had the other third-string quarterback that I loved last year. I just hope they both get to play in the preseason because I like both of them.
Oh, no, he's a free agent. Never mind.
And that's what I thought. I thought his contract ended after this year. So that's too bad, but at least they replaced their fun third-string quarterback with another fun third-string quarterback.
All right, man. Let's move.
I didn't look up their over-under. I'm sorry. I can do it now. Start talking.
All right. Let's move to schedule predictions here. I'll go first. You can look up that over/under. Chiefs fans, you're gonna love me. You're gonna love me for this record prediction. Everything matches up. So these last two teams, you know, if I really overestimated you, you know, don't kill me for it. But week 1, home against the Cleveland Browns. The heartbroken Browns, you sent them packing in the playoffs with Chad Henne. Anything is possible. I think the Chiefs lose this week 1. I think they lose this game against the Browns. I think Cleveland's going to come back with a vengeance. Odell should be back. I think Cleveland's going to have it all figured out now. A lot of points left on the board there against Kansas City. Even before Mahomes got hurt, Browns were leaving a lot of points on the field that they were not claiming. So I think if they clean it up and play a perfect game, because you have to play a perfect game against the Chiefs, they get this. Even if they don't play a 100% perfect game, they play a 90% perfect game. I think they win this one. Week 2 at Baltimore. The Ravens have never beaten the Chiefs since Mahomes ever. That's my hot take. But since Mahomes has taken the helm, and it's been Mahomes v. Jackson head to head, the Ravens have not won. So I'm going to keep giving that to the Chiefs until Lamar shows me he can beat them. Home against the Chargers. I think the Chiefs are going to sweep everyone in their division. I mean, unless Gruden pulls something out of the place where the sun don't shine, it's going to be real tough for these teams in their division to get some dubs against them. Week 4 at Philly. Yep, that's an easy win. Home against Buffalo. Josh Allen has not beaten Patrick Mahomes head-to-head yet in their career. Hasn't really even been close in the games that they played against. So I am going to give the Chiefs this win. They're at home playing the Bills. I like the Chiefs here. At the football team, this defense can give Mahomes some trouble here, but good offense beats good defense in the regular season, so I'll give the Chiefs this one, especially with that better offensive line. At the Titans, this is going to be a fun game to watch. This is going to be a real fun game to watch. On your birthday, too, isn't it? This is one of the games that's on your birthday?
No.
Oh.
That's 2 weeks later.
Oh, okay.
Titans played. Who do they play? They play like the Niners or maybe the Rams. One of the two.
They play some fun team.
Yeah.
But at the Titans, I know that the Titans have beaten the Chiefs because I was corrected about that. But I just, yes?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just butting in here because I have no idea. Just because I do have the games in front of me, but I also have like what week and what time they're occurring. This is a 1 p.m. Eastern game for some reason. Could you explain that to me? No.
Nope.
There's no reason in the world. Kansas City and Tennessee. Yeah. Please put that in the 1 o'clock slot. I want to not have any idea what's going on in that game between two teams that'll probably both be one
They're gonna wipe
max
the scoreboard.
one loss at this point.
Yeah. But I'm gonna give the Chiefs this one. I mean, this could be as close to a toss-up as we've had probably all the time doing this, just because we've looked through almost all these teams except Tampa Bay so far.
Who didn't change, so.
Yeah. Home against the Giants. Yep. That's going to be a win for Kansas City there. Really got lucky getting the NFC East here. Kansas City. Rich get richer. Uh, Home against Green Bay. I think even with Rodgers at QB, which it seems like that's going to happen now. I think they still pull out the win here. That's going to be a fun game to watch too. But Kansas City picks up the dub. At Vegas, I think they're sweeping everyone in their division, and I also think the Raiders have gotten worse this offseason. Home against Dallas. This may be one of the closer games in the NFC East. Probably not as close as the football team game, but it's home. I think they beat them here. Home against Denver. I think that's an easy win, especially if Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater are the QBs. Home against Vegas. I think they sweep Vegas here. Still really don't like anything Vegas did this offseason. At the Chargers, Herbert may be able to pull out a late season dub here. I don't think he can. I really, really like the Chargers. Gonna have to do a lot to beat the Chiefs. Home against Pittsburgh. I have no faith in Pittsburgh to do anything this season. So expecting Kansas City to get the win at home. At Cincinnati, do love Joe Burrow, but I think it's going to be asking a little too much of him and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everyone on that offense to pick up the slack for the barrage of points that will be put up by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. And week 18 here, you may be thinking, well, the Chiefs are just going to sit their starters, right, Jake? You say as a Chiefs fan? No, because the Browns will also be, or the Browns will have 2 losses at this point. So you need to win this game in order for you to not be the 2 seed. So they go out there and they smack the Broncos, and they finish with a 16-1 record, losing only the first game of the season.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I want to. I mean, that's kind of what I expected you to say. The over under is 12 wins, so you're actually a decent amount.
I'm taking
over.
the under.
Okay, fine. But anyways, it's even more amusing about the fact that they're playing the Tennessee Titans at 1 p.m. Eastern. They
play the Giants next week in primetime.
In primetime, the following week, yes, we play the Giants in primetime. Because the Giants need to play the Chiefs and the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football twice next season, just to make sure that they can get completely embarrassed. Oh my, what a mess, NFL.
Can't wait to see what Kenny G does.
Oh my gosh, NFL, really? I just can't believe it. Okay, so I went back to my roots here a little bit for this prediction because I gotta say, I've been going pretty heavy with just the straight up wins and losses recently. I can't do it for this team because I need to find some ways to give this team some losses, but what am I going to do? Do I really want to pick this team to lose games? I mean, they're not playing Tampa. They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland's like kind of there, but they're the home team against Cleveland, and they get Cleveland week 1 when they're going to have the least of their situation figured out. I mean, in terms of being Kansas City, they got the luck of the draw here. And like you said, their schedule isn't even that tough for being the best team in the AFC. So week 1 against Cleveland, like I said, I need to find a way to give them some losses because I think 16-1 or 17-0 is just too many wins. I think you got to have some mistakes in there. So week 1 against Cleveland, I got that as a toss-up because Cleveland is a really good roster, but if I had to pick one of them straight up, I'd probably still go with Kansas City. And you're right, week 2 against Baltimore, Baltimore hasn't figured them out yet. Kansas City's still a step ahead of Baltimore, and that'll be the case. Then they get week 3. They got the Chargers early in the season. You're higher on the Chargers than I am, and they're in Arrowhead for this first game, and the Chargers still probably going to be figuring themselves out. I doubt this is too close, at least at this point in the season. That's a W. Week 4 against Philadelphia, W. Don't need to say anymore. Week 5 against Buffalo. Buffalo's the exact same as Baltimore. They have no freaking clue what they're doing when it comes to playing against Kansas City, so that's a W for Kansas City. Week 6 against the Washington football team. They actually go to Washington here. This may be a game that I should have considered to throw a toss-up at, maybe a little more just because I think Washington will be a lot better than most people expect. But even though they'll be a lot better than most people expect, I think Kansas City's still a step above them. So that's a W for Kansas City. Week 7 at Tennessee. This is the other game I gave for them as a toss-up game in Week 7. So I think one of the losses comes either here to Cleveland or Tennessee. I don't know which one I want to pick yet. I'm just going to, like I said, just one of those two I feel like they're going to have to drop just because, it's hard to be perfect. And obviously we like Tennessee a lot. Week 8 against the Giants. Think the Giants are crap. That's a W. Week 9 against the Green Bay Packers. I think that's a W. You're right. We now have the Aaron Rodgers news being that he is all in and committed to the Packers. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what he said. But, he's in for this season
It's his
again.
last day. It's his last dance.
He's in for this season again, and that makes them a lot better. But there's got to be some sort of drop off, and I don't feel like Green Bay has really ever. I don't know. I just feel like Green Bay can't get the Niners. Like, Green Bay can't beat the guys in their own conference. I doubt they can beat the top dog in the AFC, honestly. That's just how I feel. I feel like they're still a step below, like, the top teams for whatever reason. Week 10 at Las Vegas. I think that's a W2. I don't think that Las Vegas is going to catch them 2 years in a row. They're going to beat Vegas twice this year. Against Dallas, Week 11. This one could be fun in terms of just points being scored, but Dallas will have like one drive where Dak either throws one interception or Zeke will fumble the ball because, he's loved to start doing that in recent years, and that'll be enough because the Kansas City Chiefs will not stop scoring. Keanu Neal did have a big impact in that Falcons game, though. Maybe I'm overlooking that, and if the Cowboys defense can actually be decent this year, maybe I shouldn't be knocking them so much, even though I've thrown a shot at them twice already in this video, and we're talking about the Chiefs. Week 13, they have their bye week 12. Week 13 against the Broncos, that's also a W. I don't think the Broncos have much of a chance in either of the games they play them in this season. Week 14, Vegas again, I already said. I'm going to give them the W. And then the only straight-up loss I gave them because I decided to throw it in just because I figured it would be fun. You love the Chargers so much, and I don't love the Chargers, but I really do know that Justin Herbert is an awesome player, and I don't see any reason that Justin Herbert can't just decide, hey, I'm going to go off today, and just go, hey, I'm going to put up 450 yards passing and 6 touchdowns, and we're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the one straight-up loss I'm going to give him at Week 15 in LA against the Chargers, just because I needed to give them one. Week 16, they play against Pittsburgh. Yeah, not terribly confident in Pittsburgh, especially touching the level of Kansas City's play. That's a W. Week 17 and Week 18, they play Cincinnati and Denver. They're still way better than those teams. So those are both also W's. You get the 2 toss-ups. They win one of those, lose one of them, and then they lose the game to the Chargers. That's 15-2. I just don't want to give more than 15 wins. I mean, like I said, it's too easy to screw up in this league. I mean, if they go 16-1 or 17-0, talent-wise, I wouldn't be shocked, especially since the Bucs aren't on their schedule, and you've basically got what I would say is your toughest test, Week 1 straight out of the gate. We're kind of going to know that's going to be the litmus test. So if they win that game, it only gets easier from there in terms of who they play during the season. Once the playoffs arrive, it could change. But they've still got some. I mean, they've got tough matchups on their schedule. They've still got Buffalo. They've still got Tennessee. Other good competition, Baltimore too. But just in terms of those other opponents that they drew up in their schedule, like the divisions they're playing against, you get Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the entire NFC East. It's really not that bad of a schedule considering they were the number 1 seed in the AFC last season. So I don't feel like 15-2 is really that ridiculous. I think it's funny that sometimes these sports books aren't willing to just say how good the best teams in the league really are. Like the fact that they're not willing to go over 12 wins is kind of ridiculous. I mean, they've got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and we don't even need to talk about the defense. They're superstars on the defense too, but I mean, you just know all that. It's like, how many games can they lose? How many teams are actually going to be able to come out and beat that? I don't think it's many.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Did you just pick the Chargers to beat the Chiefs? So I'd say I'd go to that LA game with you.
No, I didn't. I didn't. It's actually, but I mean, it seriously is. It seriously is completely the Justin Herbert aspect. It's like,
Oh yeah, no.
It's not the team at all. It is 100% the Justin Herbert aspect. I mean, there's other quarterbacks on here that could do it too. I mean, there's not a ton of them though. Like having games against Denver and Las Vegas twice in a year, those guys, I don't feel like Derek Carr or Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater are going to do it. Dak could do it week 11. Aaron Rodgers could do it week 9. And then I guess Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson if Lamar Jackson runs the ball like crazy in that game. So there's other options I could have picked from. I just thought since the other reason to pick the Chargers is because, in division matchup. So, I mean, those can get a little bit
They got their number.
Those can get a little bit wackier in terms of like this game shouldn't be that close, but because they're in the division, they know them well and they've got a beast of a quarterback. Yeah, that's kind of why I gave it to them. So yeah. But it's not the Brandon Staley thing. It's Justin Herbert. I want to make that very clear. If they win that game, it's not going to be like 17-13 or something. It's going to be like at least 35-28 or something. Like a decent amount of points are going to need to get put up.
Yeah. I mean, Herbert did close out his rookie campaign by beating the Chiefs. So, he's got their number.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that quarterback did like win his team a playoff game, so I mean, don't knock him too much.
Yeah. Come on, you can either celebrate Henny and say that he's a great quarterback, or you could say he's terrible. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Chiefs fans.
Or you can just root for Shane Buechele instead and just make absolutely no sense at all.
Or that.
So stupid. So stupid that they got him. He was I don't know. I don't know why I liked him, but he was fun. He was a fun guy to look at.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes is like, he's the guy you care
I'm on
about?
this team too.
Yeah. Anyways, y'all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut it here.